What if everything you've been told about money is only part of the story? What if the goal isn't just to work harder, save more, and wait decades for freedom, but instead to reach a point where your money starts carrying part of the weight for you? From a young age, most people are taught a simple path. Study hard, get a job, earn a stable income, and then spend your life saving for a distant future. You wake up early, go through the same routine every day, and slowly set aside a portion of what you earn. You're told this is responsible. You're told this is the right way, and in many ways it is. But it also creates a quiet feeling that never really goes away, the feeling that you're always working for a future that never quite arrives. There's always something more to save, something more to prepare for, something more to wait on. Now imagine a different possibility. Imagine that instead of spreading your effort evenly across your entire life, you focus a portion of your energy early on. You work intentionally, save more aggressively, and build a strong financial foundation in your younger years. Not forever, but for a defined period of time. During this phase, life may feel tight. You may be more careful with spending. You may say no to things that others around you enjoy. It's not easy, but it's temporary. Then something begins to change. Over time, the money you've already set aside starts to grow, slowly at first, almost unnoticeably. But then as time passes, that growth begins to accelerate. Your investments begin to build on themselves. The returns start generating their own returns. And this is where everything shifts. There comes a moment when your past effort reaches a point where it no longer needs constant reinforcement. You don't need to keep pushing at the same intensity. The system you've built starts to sustain itself. This doesn't mean you stop working. It doesn't mean you stop earning. It simply means that your financial future is no longer completely dependent on your ongoing sacrifice. Now think about two people. The first person chooses to work steadily throughout their life. They save consistently, month after month, year after year. They follow a traditional path, never skipping contributions, never taking major breaks from saving. Over time, they build a solid financial foundation. The second person approaches things differently. In the early years, they focus heavily on building. They save aggressively. They invest as much as they can. They prioritize growth during the time when their efforts can have the greatest impact. After reaching a certain level, they begin to ease off the intensity. They don't stop working, but they stop forcing themselves to save at the same aggressive rate. They allow their previous efforts to continue growing on their own. Now fast forward several decades. Both individuals reach the later stage of life. Both have built something meaningful. But the second person often finds themselves in a different position because they allowed time to amplify their early decisions. The difference between these two paths is not luck. It's not intelligence. It's not even income alone. It's how they use time. Time is one of the most powerful forces in finance. When combined with consistent investing, it creates something powerful. Even small amounts, when given enough time, can grow into something significant. But the key is starting early enough and giving those investments time to develop. Because the earlier you build, the longer your money has to grow. And the longer it grows, the more it begins to work on its own. At that point, something interesting happens in your mindset. Before reaching that stage, many people feel constant pressure. There's a sense that no matter how much you save, it's never quite enough. There's always a little more you could be doing, a little more you should be putting away. This pressure can influence every decision. It can limit choices. It can keep people in situations they don't enjoy simply because they feel they have no alternative. But once you reach a certain level of financial stability, that pressure begins to shift. Not disappear completely, but reduce. And that reduction creates space. Space to think more clearly. Space to make decisions based on what you want, not just what you fear. Space to consider different possibilities for your life. You begin to realize that your career doesn't have to feel like a constant race. You can explore different roles, different environments, different ways of working. You can adjust your path without feeling like you're risking everything you've built. This is where true flexibility begins. And flexibility is one of the most valuable forms of freedom, because it means you're not locked into one way of living. You have options. You can adapt. You can make changes when needed. Most people never experience this level of flexibility because they stay in constant accumulation mode. They continue pushing, saving, and sacrificing without ever giving their system a chance to stabilize. But those who reach a certain point discover something important. They realize that the goal isn't just to keep saving endlessly. The goal is to build enough at the right time that your future becomes more secure and your present becomes more livable. This requires a shift in thinking. Instead of viewing your entire life as one long stretch of saving and waiting, you begin to divide it into phases. There is a phase where you build, a phase where you strengthen your financial foundation. This phase requires focus, discipline, and consistency. Then there is a phase where you maintain. In this phase, your previous efforts continue working and your current income supports your present life. You're still responsible, still earning, but the pressure is reduced. And over time, this leads to a more balanced life. A life where you're not constantly chasing something just out of reach. It's a life where you can make choices based on what matters to you personally. The key idea here is not to avoid responsibility. It's to understand how to use time and effort more effectively. Because if you spread your effort too thin across your entire life, you may never reach a point where things begin to stabilize. But if you focus your energy during the right phase, you give yourself the opportunity to reach a stage where your system supports itself. This doesn't happen overnight. It requires patience. It requires discipline, and it requires a willingness to make different choices than the people around you. But the reward is not just financial, it's psychological. It's the feeling of not being constantly behind. It's the ability to breathe a little easier. It's the confidence of knowing that you're building something that will continue to grow over time. And perhaps most importantly, it's the ability to live your life with more intention. Instead of reacting to financial pressure, you begin to make decisions based on what you truly value. You can still work hard. You can still pursue goals. But now you're doing it from a position of stability, not stress. And that changes everything. Because when pressure decreases, clarity increases. And when clarity increases, better decisions follow. In the end, the goal isn't just to accumulate wealth. The goal is to reach a point where your past decisions create future stability, and your present choices are no longer dominated by fear. That's when your money starts working for you. And that's when your life starts to open up in ways that most people never take the time to experience.